I think you come to the Bell team to win it. Wabash always fight.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the Don Morel Show, your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. And Coach, we'll just spend a little bit of time talking about last week's game because we have a big game in front of us, obviously, this Saturday. But Wabash did travel to Hiram on Saturday, got a very impressive 52-13 victory at Hiram, and that did set up all the things that are in place for, or help set up all the things that are in place this weekend. But talk about your team's performance, another game where you got out to a really big start early. You're able to not only get a big lead and get the big win, but also get a chance to play a lot of players and get to see a lot of guys in preparation for this week's game.
We did. It was a really good game for us to play in preparation for this one. Most of the starters did not play in the second half. That was nice. Obviously, Cooper Sullivan set the receiving yards record, and that's great because that wasn't something we were trying to do. It just happened, and good for him. He's had quite a career here. And then we played well on both sides of the ball.
Defensively, you were able to really keep them under control, and that can be difficult. They've got a very good quarterback in Tejeda. Really mobile. They've got talented wide receivers, and they had given us problems the year before, and you really did an excellent job of keeping them under control on Saturday.
Yeah, that quarterback is slippery, and we did a nice job of containing him, covering people, and getting out of there with a win.
One of the things the defense was able to do is there was no running room anywhere. That defensive front has just continued to get better and better every week. Saturday, one of their really premier efforts, Hiram basically had no choice but to get away from the run because there was just no yardage available.
We've gotten better. I'm very pleased. Defensively, we get better every week.
Offensively, you mentioned Cooper Sullivan became the all-time leading receiver in Wabash College history, passing the legend Mike Funk, the late Mike Funk, who was a tremendous wide receiver here. Derek Allen Jr. also caught a couple of passes. He now has 12 touchdown receptions on the season, starting to move up the single-season list as well, chasing that record of Ryan Shorts of 17, but also going after Cody Lamont's spot at number 2 on the all-time or single-season touchdown reception list with 14. So Derek, with a good game, can continue to move up those lists as well. But really just an overall solid performance. You got another good field goal from Brody Rucker, and just a good day on special teams as well.
Really was. And after that bus ride, you want to win that game because that is the longest bus ride ever.
And it makes for a much shorter bus ride on the way home. So did the noon kickoff. So it was nice to be able to get home at a decent hour Saturday night. As soon as that game was over, preparation really starts even before that, but all the attention turns to this Saturday, the 129th Monon Bell Classic. As we mentioned in the open, because of the win Saturday and the way things have all worked out, that now makes this Saturday for the Monon Bell, for a share of the conference title, and for a chance to play in the NCAA playoffs. So we talked throughout the season about all the goals, even after the loss at Denison, all the goals are still there in front of us. And now this is when they all culminate. What have you seen from the team as their mood coming into this week with all the practices and preparations for the game?
Tremendous resolve, great focus. Obviously, last year they clobbered us. There's no hiding that whatsoever. I think we've gotten better as a football team. We're a better team this year than we were last year, and our kids are completely tuned in, and I think it's going to be quite a football game Saturday.
Last year, I don't think anyone will forget. Certainly interesting weather conditions. This year, the meteorologists say mid-50s, sunshine, light wind, should be a perfect day for football. Does that change any? I mean, obviously you don't make any excuses for what happened last year, but it was certainly a difficult field conditions to play in. Does that take any pressure off, knowing that you should have ideal conditions? You're playing at home in this year's game.
Well, and I think for both teams, you want to play on a nice day. This is such a big deal for both DePauw and Wabash. It's great for the fans. It's going to be beautiful, and that's just better than playing in miserable snow for both teams.
We talk about this every year, but every year circumstances can change. There are a lot of distractions with this game. We'll have some more interviews coming up this afternoon after we tape this show. There's all the TV. You'll have we certainly have several cameras at our home games, but there'll be even more cameras with this game, with the ISC network covering it. You'll have the longer timeouts because we'll have the commercial load to fill in the broadcast. So this is like a Division I game. How do the players and how do the coaches deal with those type of distractions through the week and on game day?
Fortunately for Wabash and DePauw also, you have a bunch of guys who've played in multiple Bell games. So they've been in it. They're used to the oddities, the distractions and whatnot. And I don't think that's going to interfere with the contest.
You mentioned players who have played in a lot of Bell games. They bring that entire defensive unit back that played so well last year, has played well this year. They're among the national leaders in scoring defense, in total yardage defense. How does the Wabash offense, obviously you're not going to give me your game plan here, but how do you deal with that type of solid defense that's really performed well throughout the season and last year as well?
It reminds me of some defenses we had here around 2013, 2014, 2015. And you got to kind of pick your spots. They are stingy on the run. I think they give up like 2 yards a play, and they've got kids who've been around a long time. So it's going to be a challenge.
They certainly bring a solid defense in. We have a defense that has continued to improve throughout the season. But these are two high-powered offenses. They're among the national leaders. Both offenses are ranked in the top 20 in scoring offense. So the possibility exists for this to be a very high-scoring game if the offenses can execute the way they've done all season long. Is there any advantage to whether it's a high-scoring game or a low-scoring game?
In this thing, you just throw it all out the window. If in 2021, if somebody had said, hey, you're going to win the game 42-35, I would have said you're crazy. And in 22, if they said, hey, you're going to lose the game 47-13 or whatever it was, I would have said you're crazy. The final score could be 10-7 or it could be 42-35.
Well, you talk about throwing the records out. Another statistical note. So DePauw comes into the game undefeated. DePauw has played on this field twice in the history of the rivalry with undefeated teams coming in and has lost both times. Is that anything you mentioned to the team, or do you not even worry about those numbers? Because it seems like every time you think you've got a number that tells you something about this game, something else happens. Again, the in 2010 seemed like a sure victory for them walking in. Everybody was thinking this is just a bump on the road on the way to the playoffs for DePauw because they were in a different conference. But then Wabash played one of its best games that season with a 47-0 victory. So do you take anything that you look at in the history of the rivalry, or do you just focus on the game? On
the game. And most of these things I learned from you when we taped the show. I had no idea about Derek Allen and the records. The Coop thing caught me off guard too a few weeks ago, and I learned that from you. So no, I think the truth is you've got great kids on both teams that are going to play as hard as they can Saturday, and you just see how it turns out. If you had to pick one thing that of the 8,000 people who will be here in the stadium watching the game, or the hundreds of thousands who will be watching throughout the world on the live stream broadcast, if you thought today there's one thing that could be the turning point of the game, what do you think that would be? Turnovers. And how important will it be if you can generate turnovers to then generate that into offense? It's critical for either team to get to get a turnover and turn that into points is going to be really big.
As we mentioned, there will be 8,000 people in the stadium, actually 8,100 here in the stadium watching the game live. If you're going to wake up Saturday morning and believe you're going to come to the stadium and find a way in, it will not happen. The game is a sellout. No tickets are available, no tailgating spots, no prepaid parking spots. If you don't already have a ticket to the game, you will not be coming to watch it live in person. However, we do remind you our partnership with the ISC network. They will be providing the broadcast of the game. It'll be broadcast on the regular Wabash sports site at sports.wabash.edu/WCVN for the Wabash College Video Network, on our Video Network app as well, on the Apple TV device, Roku, and all of the normal spots that you watch Wabash football. Greg Rakestraw will have the play-by-play call. Brad Wakamerka and our own Steve Hoffman will be the color commentators, and Kelsey Casper will be the sideline reporter for that game. Coach, as always, best of luck. Let's bring home the bell and move on to the playoffs.
Thank you.
You've been watching the Don Morel Show, your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head coach of the Little Giant program. With a victory on Saturday, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for watching.
I think you come to the Belgian to win it. Wabash always fight.